Hello friends. So let's move to the next study, which is cross-sectional study. So let's understand what it is. A cross-sectional study observes both exposure and outcome at the same point of time. So we have exposure and outcome uh, simultaneously in a defined population. It is used to estimate the burden of disease and the prevalence of exposure. It is a snapshot of the population. Yeah, it's a commonly asked MCQ point. Which studies a snapshot of population? So you can answer it as cross-sectional study. Okay. So in this also you will make a 2 by 2 table as shown in this image. And key points in cross-sectional study, the since total population is known, both exposed and disease are measured at the same time, right? We are actually calculating total population. So in total population, we will identify both exposed and disease at the same time. So hence we can calculate prevalence, prevalence ratio, and prevalence odds ratio. So these are usually calculated things. Prevalence of disease indicates the proportion of individuals in a population who has the disease at the time of study. So at the time of study, how many people are having disease is identified by prevalence of the disease. The prevalence of disease is number of existing cases upon total population into 100. So how many existing cases are there? That we can see here, disease present A plus C. So we will put it down at here. A plus C upon N. N is total population upon 100. So we will get the prevalence. For example, if there are 1,000 people and 250 are having hypertension, then prevalence will be 12%. Okay. Now prevalence of exposure. This was prevalence of disease. Make sure you understand this properly. Prevalence of exposure is indicates the proportion of individuals in the population who are exposed to risk factor. Okay. So here we are saying number of exposed individuals. Uh, Hence we will take A plus B and upon total population, which is n. So a plus b upon n into 100. Now population of in for example population of 1,000 people, and from that 400 are smokers, then prevalence of smoking is 40%. So that is the point. Now prevalence ratio. What is prevalence ratio? It is also called as prevalence risk ratio. Compares the prevalence of disease in exposed and non-exposed group. Okay, so here we are comparing the prevalence in exposed and non-exposed. So prevalence in exposed upon prevalence in non-exposed, which is A upon A plus B. Yeah, prevalence in exposed is A upon A plus B, and prevalence in non-exposed is C upon C plus D. So that is the point here, and we will get the prevalence ratio. So for example, from this table A, B, C, D, we have this table actually. So when we put out the values, we will get prevalence ratio as 3. Okay. And the fourth thing is prevalence odds ratio. So here we will calculate odds ratio. As we discussed, we will multiply A into D and C into B, as we discussed in previous video. Yeah, so we will get the odds ratio in this, that is prevalence odds ratio, which is 3.3, 3.86. Okay. So what are the interpretations of prevalence ratio and prevalence odds ratio? Prevalence ratio is 3, which means COPD is 3 times more prevalent. COPD is 3 times more prevalent among the smokers than non-smokers. And prevalence odds ratio is 3.86, which means that odds of having COPD are 3.38 times higher in smokers than in non-smokers. Okay, now important point is cross-sectional study measures prevalence, not incidence. For incidence, we have discussed in case control studies, we can find the incidence. Sorry, cohort study cannot establish temporality used for public health planning and generalizing hypothesis. Yes, so we can generalize the hypothesis else, etc. in cross-sectional study and uses establishing burden of disease in the population, identifying his high-risk population, planning and evaluating the public health programs. And limitations are cannot determine cause and effect. not suitable for rare diseases. For rare diseases, we have discussed case control is used, and for rare effect, we have discussed already that cohort is used. Susceptible to prevalence incidence bias. Yes. So this was our lecture on cross-sectional study. Thank you for joining. Stay tuned.